Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Evangelist Nick Garrett channel. This is the second video in a new series, True History of the Popes for All Christians. Last installment, we touched base on the Apostle Peter, and today we're talking about Linus. Remember, this is before they're called popes, so you're going to frequently hear us use the term bishops of Rome. Linus was the second bishop of Rome. He, Peter, and Clement III are the only ones mentioned in the scripture, and they're mentioned in passing as being affiliated and grouped with Peter and Paul. Linus is interesting because Peter himself raised Linus to bishop, but he was in fact ordained by Paul. So we have a good track record here for this individual Linus. Some of the church tradition notes that his mother was Claudia, who is also named in the New Testament. Linus was obviously one of the earliest bishops in Rome, and he became bishop around the year 67. We have to say around the year because there's discrepancy as far as these years and how they went and how they worked, different periods of persecution, etc. So the earliest witness to the episcopate of Linus was Irenaeus, who wrote about it in about the year 180. The Oxford Dictionary mentions that according to the earliest succession lists of bishops of Rome, passed by Irenaeus to Hegesippus, and attested by the historian Eusebius later in the 4th century, he was entrusted with the office by the apostles Peter and Paul after they had established the Christian churches in Rome. Let's take a look at what the Liber Pontificalis has to say. One of the fun parts about the early popes is you can trace them by looking previous and looking at the one ahead. If we go back to Peter, we remember that we heard he held ordinations, 7 deacons, 10 priests, 3 bishops in the month of December. Linus, by nationality, was an Italian, and he was from the province of Tuscany. He was the son of Herculanus. He occupied the see. What is meant by that is he was in the bishopric of Rome for 11 years, 3 months, and 12 days. All of the scholars, including Duquesne or Duchesne, who is probably the top scholar on Liber Pontificalis, think that these years and months are probably not quite accurate, given as many times as the calendar has changed. Rome fell in the mid-400s, and Dionysius Exiguus came along and developed the BC AD system of years. So it threw everything into a tailspin, making it difficult to get precision in the years. But we do get a basic idea of the succession in that way. He was crowned with martyrdom, and when that is said, it means that the individual was at some point killed. However, some historians disagree because during the episcopate of Linus, it was a lull in persecutions. It was between persecutions. So while we don't know for a fact that he was persecuted, we do know where he's buried. He was buried on the hill opposite of Peter, and that was confirmed later through archaeology. Some archaeologists came along and said, wait a second, this is a smaller version of a larger name. So with higher criticism infiltrating all these things, it's impossible to know for sure, but we do at least have a strong tradition when it comes to Linus. He, under the direction of Peter, he decreed that women must veil their head to come into the church. Something foreign to us today, but it's exciting because as we go on this journey, we're going to hear about all the different doctrines, beliefs, and practices that took place in the earliest church. This is telling us that within 29 years after the death of Christ, Christian women were ordered by the Bishop of Rome to cover their heads during worship. By Peter's direction, nonetheless. Linus held 2 ordinations, 15 bishops, 18 priests. He was buried near the body of the blessed Saint Peter in the Vatican. Long before it was called the Vatican, they give the date of September the 24th. Now, we know what church services looked like during this time because the earliest detailed account of one comes to us from Justin Martyr's Apology. And that correlates pretty well to what we know about Linus as well. Let me give you a few other brief pieces of information about our man Linus, and then we will move on to the next video, friends. St. Peter's, St. Jerome. Later, remember Jerome that put together the Vetus Latina, the Latin Vulgate? He described Linus as the first after Peter to be in charge of the Roman Church. He didn't say Peter was the first and Linus was the second. He clearly is creating a distinction that because Peter was the apostle of Christ, Paul was an apostle, that there was a structuring of the church, and then after them we begin counting with Linus. We'll also note that as we go through these 240 some odd popes, many of them sometimes will be referred to as anti-popes. We run into confusion just within the first 5 between a pope named Cletus and one named Anacletus, which may be the same person, but we'll get there as we get there. I think that's about it for Linus. There's not much to him. We don't know a great deal other than these wonderful things taught to us and the references made to them in Scripture. I hope you're excited about the next one. We're going to learn about Clement, the 3rd Bishop of Rome. I look forward to talking to you next time. God bless you and may your work today bear fruit. If you'd like to support us, please do. Get something from the Teespring store. Visit amazon.com/author/nicholasdgarrett and purchase one of the books I've written from my author page. You can get one of the many series of books in the Just Tell Me the Truth About Christianity series. You can buy my nonfiction history of the Washington ancestors shipwrecked in the land of King Tobacco, the first Washington family immigrant to America. Also, please check out playlists. They're neatly organized on my channel by content. And while YouTube might not show them to you in recommended videos anymore, we're still making between 3 and 5 videos a week, and I hope you're getting them, and I hope you're learning a great deal. I hope you get as much out of watching them as I do in making them. Talk to you next time. Thanks, friends.